All right, guys, y'all know what time it is. Welcome to another episode of Dynasty Overload, a fantasy podcast. I am your host, Manny. We got one of our co-hosts here, Sheila, aka Fantasy Genius. And we're joined by a special guest, FF Pork, aka Phil, aka Porkman, from Dynasty Rewind. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be here.
Good deal, man. It's been a long time coming. Who knew that I'll be doing a Dynasty podcast, man? You guys really got me. And I know when I started in fantasy football or even in podcasting, I was, following you guys and just kind of learning as much as I can from the Dynasty Rewind crew. Put me on guys like Quintez, Cephas, and guys like that. So it's deep dive Dynasty. Also joining us today, we got my guy Hutchinson in the building, man. I'm telling you guys, this young man right here knows his stuff, and I saw him on YouTube and fell in love with his takes. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I'm just super excited to be on the show. Sorry I ended up being up late. My computer Wi-Fi was bad for a minute. I had to start it up, and I ended up being late. I'm sorry.
It's all good. We were all late. We had kids, putting kids to sleep and doing all of this, and I'm trying to communicate with everybody. So, man, it's awesome to have you and Porkman on the show. Like I said today, guys, this is going to be a super chill show. We're going to be talking about Dynasty Buys. I told you guys buys, but a few of us might have sales. It's going to be in the AFC East and NFC West. And also, we're going to be talking rookie profiles. We're going to be talking Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. So it's going to be a really, really cool show. But before we get started, Sheila, what do you have for us in terms of current events today?
So the main news that I wanted to kind of bring in is the transition from Mr. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator of the Chiefs, to my Commanders. So super excited about that move. Very controversial in a lot of different pieces. Hopefully this is the springboard that literally allows Eric Bieniemy to go forward and actually become a head coach in the future. But a lot of talent, a lot of untapped potential in Washington. Looking forward to seeing him actually see what he can do with that offense and see what's going on with my guy, Jahan Dotson.
Yes, sir. Good deal. I thought it was like another news, but the Bieniemy news just kind of shut everything else down.
It just shut it all down.
Yeah, it doesn't really even matter what else had happened. Man, I was excited to see. I'm a Washington fan as well, and when we signed this guy, I was like, yes, finally something good. And I think that this is going to help this team big time. I think it's going to be a balance between a rushing attack and passing attack. Like I said on the Washington pod, Bieniemy was a running backs coach for a long time. So he's going to definitely utilize who we have now, but I also think that the Commanders make a splash move either in free agency or draft and adding to that RB room. What do you think about the Commanders, Hutch?
The Commanders, I mean, obviously their offense has kind of been dreadful for the last couple of years, but with this new signing, it could be very, very interesting for them. But I'm still, there's obviously a big question mark at quarterback. What are we looking at for quarterback? A lot of reports have said that the Commanders have been telling coaching staff and the people they've been looking to hire that Sam Howell will be the starter in 2023. And if that's the case, I don't see much coming from this offense. Sam Howell was a prospect I never really believed in. He got picked pretty late in the draft, even among a weak quarterback class. And I don't think he's going to be somebody that is really special in the NFL. I know he showed a flash against the Cowboys in Week 18 and actually had an okay game. But I don't think we're going to see that consistently throughout the next year. And I think that we could even see some Taylor Heineke as well. I just don't think it's going to be a great season quarterback-wise for the Washington Commanders. And as a result, I'm still mostly out on this offense until they find a quarterback. I mean, they could be in the market this year. Obviously, we got Aaron Rodgers, we got Lamar Jackson, we got Derek Carr. We got some quarterbacks out there that could make a difference. And obviously that would definitely change how we look at this team. But for now, their quarterback situation is just not in the position to lead an offense to a ton of success.
I believe in Howell. I just don't know what he'll do. I mean, this is practically his rookie season. But for you, Phil, if the Commanders were to bring in a Jimmy G, Would that help that offense? Yes or no? Your thoughts?
I think it will because they have all the talent around that offense for them to excel and do well. They got McLaurin, they got Dotson, they have Brian Robinson. Not really the biggest Antonio Gibson fan, but when they put him down in the third down type of running back role, he did excel. So I think if you get a Jimmy G and just sustain the offense and just to make it average and you have a vet in there, I can see them winning games because Jimmy G gets no respect. He's won playoff games, been to the Super Bowl, he's been in the NFC Championship game. So I think if you put him in the offense with the Eric Bieniemy, he knows what he's doing. It's just I'm not really sure if it's interviewing is horrible or what, but he knows what he's doing when it comes down to X's and O's in football. Give him a Jimmy G. I think they can win some games, to win some big games at the next level.
And for those of you guys who don't know, Porkman actually had beef with Antonio Gibson on Twitter.
I did. Real beef.
Actually?
I think it was
Yeah,
like
I did. I said I was wondering why people was drafting in the second round of rookie drafts, and he came at me and said, "Well, stack my stats against your favorite RB," and I was halfway right, I guess. He wasn't just the greatest, but he was average, like I thought he was. But I don't want to get in a beef with him because I might get knocked out for real.
oh man, that is great, man. So let's go ahead and dive into the rookie profiles. So let's talk about Bryce Young first. You know, Bryce Young, undersized, very talented. And what scares me about Alabama quarterbacks is when you look at Alabama, right, they're so loaded offensively, right, defensively, coaching, like the whole organization. So when you're bringing these quarterbacks, is it the team or is it the quarterback? I mean, there were question marks with Tua Tagovailoa when he first came in, and he's now starting to prove himself, but that is with talent around him. So we'll go around the frames. Hutch, what do you think about Bryce Young? And then we'll kind of pass it on to Pork and Shilor.
Man, Bryce Young, I mean, I actually, a little weird to me. I actually haven't done a ton of studying on the rookie quarterbacks and rookies yet. But what I do know about Bryce Young, he is a bit undersized. And, there were, some pictures going around of him, showing that he could be, 5'10" or 5'9". I think he's around 6 foot. Still a little shorter, and at 194 is what I'm seeing, a little bit undersized. So that's definitely going to be a problem for him. But adding on, I mean, he's ultra productive in a big time school. We know that he can produce at a big level with big competition. And it's hard to say anything crazy negative about him besides his size. Watching him play and looking at the stats, there's nothing that's holding him back besides his size. So I think he's going to be a very solid quarterback in the NFL. It's just is his size going to kill him that much?
Absolutely. And joining us is our other co-host, the Razinator. So welcome to the show, Tommy, man. How you feeling today? All right, while he figures that out, man, let's go ahead and go to Pork. Any thoughts on Bryce Young before we turn it over to Shilor to kind of give us the ins and outs, the meat, and about Bryce Young?
With Bryce Young, obviously the size probably could be an issue, but as we're looking at the quarterbacks that have been getting drafted, it seems like the size isn't as big of an issue anymore. As long as you be able to move out of the pocket and you have a really nice arm.
He's an escape artist. He can move around the pocket very well.
Yeah, he can. And the thing I like about Bryce Young is that sometimes they label the black quarterbacks. Oh, if he's short and he's black, that means he's just going to run. The guy, he actually looks to pass more often than he is running, which I like about him a lot. If it's a fact that he can run and he needs to, he can get the job done and move the sticks. My biggest issue with flaw is because I'm not going to do the full profile. I'm going to leave Lawyer do that, but his arm strength to me, I think, is a little bit of an issue as well. Throwing down the field, it seems like he throws a lot of floaters. I was looking at a little bit of film on Texas for 2022. Threw a ton of swing passes to Jahmyr Gibbs, who we talked about in the prior episodes. And it kind of makes him look good, kind of pads his stats because Jahmyr Gibbs just that nasty and making people miss, make people miss in the flats. But when it comes to Bryce, I think he needs to work on his arm strength, throwing the ball intermediate and deep passes, and I think that's something that he definitely needs to work on. But other than that, his footwork is awesome. He drops back, and footwork is good, and everything else is fine. It's just that the height and the arm strength for me that is an issue, which makes me think that I don't know if he should be a top 5 pick in this draft.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, and if they're comparing him to Aaron Murray, even though I don't believe none of
Good deal.
these things are good, some of these stats, Aaron Murray was not good at all at the next level. So
yeah. I'm seeing a comp here. I've looked at a couple different profiles. I've seen a couple Russell Wilson comps, which I think is interesting.
yeah, Russell Wilson had a better arm coming out, but
Definitely,
with him scrambling out of the pocket and running bootlegs, I can see that comparing to a Bryce Young, but the arm strength is definitely that's not comparable to a Russell Wilson. We saw what he does. He throws those moonshots down the field to Tyler Lockett when he was with Seattle, and it looked amazing. But that's what I think. Just height, weight, and arm strength is going to be the issue at the next level. And me personally, I know I'm sometimes a little bit contrarian when I'm looking at prospects and film with other people. I don't see him being as great as a quarterback as people think he's going to be. The Alabama, we was talking about Tua, looking at Tua, we had an issue with him just looking first read and go. But you got to remember, he had Judy, he had all top receivers in Alabama, which padded his stats really, really well and had him win the Heisman. Bryce Young really had John Mechie the prior year. Once he got hurt in that game, he looked average. So that's just just my small issue with Bryce Young. I'm just not the biggest fan, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his stats, I mean, Young completed in 2021.
Tommy, you got anything before I turn it over?
What's that?
Hey, Hutch, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to somebody else. My bad. So yeah, I was looking at in 2021, Young completed 66.9% of his passes for 4,872 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And he was throwing Jameson Williams, John Mechie that year. But in his junior season, less talented supporting cast. And as Phil was mentioning earlier, he looked very average, 65.8% completion percentage, 3,300 yards, and only 35 touchdowns. So it is definitely interesting to see with a limited receiving core what he actually put together compared to what he had with Jameson Williams and others the year before.
Good deal.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna turn it over to Shilor, but I got a question for Tommy in the rest of the right. Shilor, you there?
I think he's
We
muted.
can't hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
There we go. Let's rock with it. So Bryce Young, what I'm hearing is everybody's kind of looking at a lot of different avenues. The big thing is always going to be how he measures. This year, more than any other year, it's going to be what happens at the combine. I love the comments as far as the statistical pieces, but he also played 3 less games this year as well. So that's always one of the things that I want to look into. I love the fact that he actually lost the talent because that was the big thing that I wanted to actually see. In the championship game the previous year, when Jameson Williams goes out of that game, so you lost John Mechie, but then when Jameson Williams goes out of that game, now you see him trying to scramble and kind of do all these different pieces. So is he somebody that can actually work with elite talent? Absolutely. But is he a game changer? I'm not necessarily sure. My comps would actually fall along the lines of a Russell Wilson, and then also maybe a lesser athletic Kyler Murray. which I think is kind of, what you're kind of looking as far as that size. The pictures that Hutch was talking about, literally there beside Kyler Murray, he looks smaller. And that to me is terrifying because I'm the most out on Kyler Murray person that you're going to find in the community because of the size, because of being able to handle, elite pass rushers. I saw like Aaron Donald grab hold of him one time and he held him like a newborn child. And I was terrified of that. So I don't want small quarterbacks to actually run my dynasty board. And I think the NFL is going to be kind of looking at that as well. So seeing what kind of draft capital he gets is going to be big. But as far as elite qualities, he does read the field well. I do see him following through on progressions. And if he has a clean pocket, he is a playmaker. He can extend plays. So those things actually do translate well. But again, it's going to come into how he measures and all those types of things to determine what type of draft capital he gets.
Good deal. So, knowing that we're going to talk about CJ Stroud next, my question to Tommy is, Tommy, we can't hear you. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
I was wondering why I was talking and nobody was listening.
Yeah, you thought we were ignoring you, man. You're good.
All right, now I can't hear you guys, but I'm gonna go. I was gonna say my thing about Bryce Young is, hey, there's been great quarterbacks with bad arm strength. Joe Montana, Tom Brady. These are guys that didn't have elite arm strength, but these are some of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever had. I believe if Bryce Young was 6'3", there'd be no question about where he'd be going in this draft. And I believe Bryce Young is gonna really surprise a lot of you guys. When I see him playing, I believe he's the most complete quarterback coming out, of course. And if we're talking about guys playing without talent, I mean, listen, the number 2 guy, this guy's played with all elite players his whole career. So, I definitely, Bryce Young is my number 1 quarterback this year.
Very cool. I think what's good about that is it's really up for debate. There really isn't this clear-cut number 1 guy. And I think that's part of this process, which is going to be great for the offseason to really determine who's going to, rise to the cream of the crop of this class.
Yeah, I agree, though, that what he was mentioning, that if Bryce Young was 6'3", if he was a little bit bigger, I agree there'd be no question of where he ranks in this class. I think that's really one of the biggest concerns. If he was like a bigger guy, he'd be going number 1 overall, and it wouldn't be a question to anybody.
Absolutely.
I like what he said there.
Absolutely. And what scares me with Bryce Young is, can he take the hits? What if he goes to a team that has no offensive line? I am terrified. Okay. Yeah. After what just happened to me with Kyler Murray, I was excited to have him. I traded the house to get Kyler Murray in plenty leagues. And he takes a hit and he's gone. So having these smallish quarterbacks, having these running quarterbacks, I'm fading away from, these running quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson. I have tons of those shares, tons of these Kyler Murrays, and I'm now transitioning to the Joe Burrow, Justin Herberts. But injuries happen to any. You can see Joe Burrow already had an injury. So my question to you guys is, are you guys comfortable taking a Bryce Young in your dynasty draft at the 102? Anybody?
Yes.
In the rookie draft, yeah. I mean, well, if it's assuming it's a super flex league. If it's non-super flex, then that's not even a decision.
Right, no. Super flex.
But yeah, it's gotta be super flex. In a super flex league, I think obviously you gotta look at, because obviously we have to decide. If you're having to decide right now, I would take Bryce Young, because I personally believe that he's the better talent over CJ Stroud. Obviously, we haven't seen, the combine. We haven't seen the rest of this offseason. We haven't seen draft capital. We haven't seen where these landing spots are. So we don't know everything necessarily. So obviously that could change by the time where rookie drafts are rolling around a lot. But right now, if I had to decide, yes, I'd be comfortable taking Bryce Young 102. I don't think that any of the wide receivers or Jahmyr Gibbs or CJ Stroud are worth it at 102. So I would go Bryce Young if it's a super flex league at 102. And I'd be pretty comfortable with it.
Okay.
It's a good kid.
Let's go ahead and any last thoughts before we transition to CJ?
I think the problem with the
Tommy, you said
102
something?
for me,
I was just saying it was a good kid here. I don't know where we found this guy. He's pretty smart.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, as long as you're agreeing with me. Sheila?
Tommy Wild, man. So anyway, 102 for me, right? All I can say is this: you better not miss it 102. And that's really the way I look at it, right? Like, you got to make sure you're good. And I don't think it's anybody here in this class, but especially not Bryce Young. I think if we're saying can't miss, and I think this is a great segue, the can't miss quarterback in this class is CJ Stroud. And he's the safest. He has that floor where he's going to be consistent. You can see him throwing dots. And he has the size that, unfortunately, Bryce Young isn't going to grow 3 inches or maybe 4 inches or 5 inches once we actually get these measurements in time for the draft. So if I'm at 2, give me CJ Stroud all day long.
Look, I'm telling y'all, man, Bryce Young is 5'5", okay? I'm just kidding, but I mean, hey, there's coming a time when we really find out the truth. I remember that they doing something where they started letting these players take off, and some of these guys that were so-called 6'10" are literally like 6'8". So everybody's inches kind of like went down by 2. So it's gonna be interesting to see what he weighs in, what his height is, size of hands, speed, all these things matter in the combine. And as of right now, we don't even know landing spot. I remember 2 years ago, I went Trey Lance number 2. And I was so excited about Trey Lance, and look at it today. So for me, with these quarterbacks coming in, if I can trade for a proven quarterback that's semi-young, I'd rather do that. I'd rather overpay sometimes for my quarterbacks than to go ahead and gamble and, is this guy going to pan out? With the quarterbacks in Superflex, it's for me, I've been burnt too many times drafting all these rookie quarterbacks, and they normally don't pan out. We heard the Zach Wilson, another one. I was so excited about Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is interesting. The quarterback position in Dynasty, like we talk about, like wide receivers, a super deep position in fantasy. We talk about running back as a very shallow position, tight end is a very shallow position. We used to think quarterback is a very deep position in fantasy because you could just find replacements everywhere. But in Dynasty Superflex League, it's actually not that way. Like, we're starting to see a transition where it's really top heavy at the quarterback position. When you look at like the first 8 to 10 guys, after that, it's a pretty significant drop off. Like, it's crazy. So not having one of those top guys in Superflex is pretty like devastatingly bad, especially when you're talking about like a 12, a 14, a 16 team Dynasty league where quarterbacks like aren't very available. If you don't have one of those top guys, you're in trouble. So I agree. If you have the opportunity to trade like one of your 102, 103, maybe along with a couple other pieces and get one of those like top 8, top 10 guys, I'd be much more willing to do that as well. Like, I would, as he said, I'd rather overpay for that top quarterback right now than take a shot at one of these rookies that, while I do see some potential in both of them, they are not they're not guarantees. I think the 24 class actually looks a little bit better when you look at quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going to be big. But CJ Stroud is Stroud's super interesting. One of the biggest, like, one of the things I don't like about him, though, I think overall he's really good. He has a lot of.
We are all in on Caleb Williams.
Yeah, we are. We're here, man. But CJ Stroud, I think that, I mean, he has good arm talent. He's great vision down the field, and his accuracy is really on point when he has a clean pocket. But actually, like, he's a 71.1% completion rate, 35 touchdowns when we're looking at a clean pocket, 93.4 PFF grade. But when he's under pressure, it's actually insanely bad. When he's under pressure throughout his career, 41.3% completion rate and a 42.0 PFF grade. Mm-hmm. That's like near, like, when you look at quarterbacks under pressure, when you look at the completion percentage and the ratings, that's like outside the top 90 out of 144 quarterbacks in college that were eligible for this stat. Like, CJ Stroud went under pressure. Like, we talk about him as a running quarterback. He actually didn't run like a ton in college. And when you watch him play, I got to watch a lot of his film lately. When he's under pressure, it's funny. Like, he becomes a bit of a statue back there. in the pocket. Like I don't know if anybody else notices this. If you guys have watched it and noticed it too, he becomes a bit of a statue back there, and he just freezes. And it's gotten him in trouble with pressure. It's gotten him in trouble with sacks over his career, and it shows in the stats where when he's under pressure, he's not passing very well. And even though he's fast, he sometimes shows a lack of ability to escape pressure in the pocket. It's kind of wild, but watching the film, it really comes through. So that's one of the big concerns with CJ Stroud. It's when he's under pressure, can he because Bryce Young, when you look at him under pressure in a clean pocket, a dirty, it doesn't matter. He's fine either way. But CJ Stroud shows a lot of weakness when he's under pressure. And I'm scared of that for him when it comes to the big leagues. Because if you're under pressure, making mistakes in the big leagues, it's going to bite you. You're going to throw interceptions. You're going to make some bad choices, and it's going to end bad.
Right.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that.
Yep.
So my biggest issue with CJ is that same thing. It's also the fact that this guy had immense talent around him the whole time he was playing.
Yeah.
And if we consider the other Ohio State QBs that come out, Haskins and Fields, they don't look great to me. I mean, if that's what I'm getting, listen, don't sign me up for that. And I know Stroud looks better than those guys in those positions, but yeah, just to me, no. I'm passing here.
Yeah, and in this case, I hate trying to helmet scout because that is kind of difficult. So we kind of get caught up with that with Alabama as well. We see all the quarterbacks that comes out of there and said, well, they're not going to be good at the next level. But then we saw what Tua did this year pre-concussion, and he looked super good. I'm an Ohio State fan, and it's a lot of quarterbacks that's coming out of Ohio State, and we have a ton of issues with going to the next level, and majority of them stink, to be honest. CJ Stroud, to me, is the type of person who he shows the arm talent, he shows the progressions down the field, and yes, he has the talent, but at least he's getting the ball to that talent in stride. There's a difference between having the talent trying to contort their body to make the catch or having the quarterback get the ball to the talent in stride so they can make the next move down the field. And I think that's what he does best. His biggest weakness, we all said it, is the footwork. When he first came out this freshman year, his true starter as a true freshman, that first game, I wanted to pull my hair out that I don't have because he was not throwing anything accurate. He was sailing the ball down the field, and it was all footwork. So once he got the footwork done in the pocket, now that he's getting flushed out of the pocket, his footwork goes to hell all over again, and he's throwing the ball inaccurate and not looking good. He just looks stuck in the mud. I think personally that's something that can be fixed at the next level. There's a ton of quarterbacks that I've seen go to the next level, like a Brock Purdy, for example. I think his footwork was absolutely horrible. But once we see when he got the opportunity to play, all that footwork switched, it changed. Shanahan changed whatever he did wrong, and he actually looked halfway good. I think in this case, CJ Stroud, if they're able to fix his footwork in the pocket and outside of the pocket, I think this guy can be maybe, I would say, a QB2 for next season in Dynasty and do really well for your teams and actually win you some games this year. Hopefully he goes to a good team with some talent, and we can see him thrive at the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
So I got CJ going to the Panthers.
Yeah, that CJ to the Panthers would be really, really interesting because the Panthers, I've also heard, Panthers with DJ Moore there with, it would be very, very interesting to see him as a Panther.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned if he goes anywhere with a bad offensive line to start off as a rookie.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
You get in those bad habits.
Yeah, that'd be brutal. I mean, we were talking about earlier, under pressure, the footwork. If he's put in a situation where the offensive line is not going to protect him early, he's going to be put in a lot of trouble early. And I'm not saying he can't fix that eventually or he can't get around that, but it's a tough start.
It is a tough start, and if he gets drafted by the Colts, obviously,
All
he
right,
can
so I got
stay
a
home
question for
and
Shilor.
do that. That's a good offensive line that he can be behind, and he has a running game that can support him as well. So if you got Jonathan Taylor and you're throwing the ball to Pittman, and they have some nice tight ends there, I can see him producing there as well.
All right, so Shilor, so CJ Stroud, right? Who is your player comp for this guy?
So here's the thing. So I
I
get
think you're muted,
everything
Shilor.
that you guys are talking
Okay.
on the y'all get okay, good. So I get everything as far as being under pressure, right? Everything's good with that until the Georgia game happens. When
Yeah,
you play best,
Exactly,
like
because he
that's the
looked
whole
good
thing.
in that.
Like when you see the Georgia game, and then you see hey, he's under pressure, then he takes off and he actually used that footwork. Like that's what I want to see the progression as we're kind of navigating this thing because they're all works in progress. In the Georgia game, you see him go 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, 348 yards, 23 out of 34 against the top defense in the country on the biggest stage with the pressure, everything else. And it comes down to literally getting everybody in position, and you got a field goal kicker mess up everything. This guy literally shot up the draft board for me in that particular piece because it's all about the moment. When the moment isn't too big for you, when you've already kind of been doing those things, when you had the time to really start adjusting and actually working on stuff, like that's the biggest thing for me. Now, if we're looking at a comp as we're kind of navigating this piece, I think one of the things is very interesting. We saw a guy in Joe Burrow who actually has all of this different talent around him at LSU, and nobody knocked him for the talent. He had some adversity. He had to wait his turn. He had to move on a little bit. CJ Stroud has Joe Burrow type mentality. He has a Joe Burrow type confidence, a Joe Burrow type swag and calmness in the pocket. And I think I like that particular piece of him as far as his demeanor. So when you're watching everything, just know that this is always a progressive piece. Like I wasn't the same person at 19 that I was at 21. There's this particular process that we have to kind of wash through as we're looking at it. I think the Brock Purdy piece is very enlightening, right? When you get in the right situation, you get in the right system, you have the opportunity to thrive. I actually have CJ Stroud projected to go to the Colts at 4. If he's in Indy, it's on.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I definitely
I love
agree
it.
with that.
I love it.
Ruin him.
CJ's
He goes
definitely a
Indy,
guy
he'd
that
be
I have over Bryce
definitely
Young. So,
sorry.
guys, let's go ahead and transition to the Dynasty Buys AFC East first. So, in the AFC East, we have the Bills, we have the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Pats, right? Great division, tons of talent in that division. We're going to go around the frames. Just give me your player that you're buying or selling, either or, and then we'll kind of get through all the teams. So, in the AFC East, let's start with the Bills. Sheila, who are you buying or selling?
I'm selling Gabriel Davis everywhere I can. That guy sucks. He had the opportunity. He was literally the number 2. And in conjunction with that, I'm buying Khalil Shakir. Khalil
Yes.
Shakir is coming. I'm grabbing him everywhere I can. You can still kind of grab him for a 3rd round pick, and a lot of people that don't know. He's the guy I'm buying, and I'm completely out on Gabriel Davis. There's a guy on here that told me that he would give me a 2nd for Gabriel Davis in a previous episode. And then when I sent it to him, he tried to counter back with a 3rd. So I don't know what's going on with that, but hopefully, I can put it back in his inbox and he'll keep his word this time. We'll see what happens.
You wanted 2-1.
Hey man, let me get him, man.
I'm
That's
going,
your dude, man.
and I'm going 2-12.
Hey,
2-12.
let's figure it out, man.
Yeah,
2-12.
I
Khalil's
couldn't
mine
agree
too.
more.
I'm buying Khalil. Listen, Khalil
Yeah.
didn't really get to shine last year. I think he's going to be their number 2, and I honestly believe he can fill in for Diggs when he leaves. So I'm going Khalil.
Interesting.
Hutch, what about you?
I think I'm going to be selling when I'm looking at players on the Bills to buy or sell. I think I'm going to be looking at James Cook as a sell. Personally, when you look at James Cook, he is not, he's 5'11", 190. He's not a big guy. He's not someone that can take that next level role in the NFL. And it's just clear. It's hard because I don't want to just like say he can't do it because of his size, but it's like he's 190 pounds. Like He's not built for a workhorse role in the NFL. Like, it's just simply not there. And we watched for fantasy football this year where he did make some flashes here and there. I just feel like because he's young, because he's on a big Bills offense, people are going to be going all over him a little bit like crazy. But this Bills offense is actually a disaster for running backs. If you look at it, like really look at it, because this Bills offense already very pass happy. In each of the past 3 years, they've been top 10 in pass attempts per game. And then additionally, that leaves a lot less rushing attempts for running backs. But then you also look, Josh Allen is an elite running quarterback. I mean, he runs all over the place. They're going to have designed runs for him. He's going to scramble all over the place, and that's going to lead to less rush attempts for running backs. And when he scrambles, that's going to lead to less passing work for the running backs, which is James Cook's specialty, which is why we love him. He might not get that opportunity as much on Buffalo. I think James Cook could be a great piece on another offense. Like, let's say the 49ers never traded for Christian McCaffrey and he were to go to San Francisco. I think that would be an amazing spot for him because it's a pocket. You got Brock Purdy, a pocket passer, not very mobile, dumping it off to James Cook and letting him work. I think that's a great place for him to be. But Buffalo just doesn't run the ball, doesn't run their offense that way. I think James Cook was good player, bad situation, and I just don't think that the workhorse role for him is ever going to be there. So James Cook is somebody that I'm selling in Dynasty because his youth and his ups, like people have seen the upside in this Bills offense. I think that's a complete delusion, and I'm going to be using that to my advantage and selling James Cook.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Port?
Yeah, so I got the same thing as Shalor. I've been selling Gabe Davis since last year.
I will say that.
Yeah, it was that 3 touchdown game. As soon as he had that, they were talking about he's going to be a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. And I was
Wasn't
like,
it
no.
Four touchdowns? Wasn't it 4 touchdowns? It was a 4-touchdown game, right?
It was ridiculous. It was a crazy game. But they talking about, he's going to be the wide receiver 2 next to Diggs. No, you have to sell him immediately because you already knew he wasn't going to do that on a consistent basis. He wasn't doing it on a consistent basis during the season, and then boom, get 4 touchdowns. Now he's the best thing since sliced bread. Nah, so, and it showed again this year. So let's sell him again if you still have him for somebody wants him. And my buy was Khalil Shakir as well. Him coming out of college, he was a really, really good route runner with really good hands. And he showed that at the next level. Yeah, he looks small, but he's still juking these guys out of their boots downfield and making really nice catches down the field with Josh Allen. So Khalil Shakir is a big definite buy for me. I like to find bargains, get some guys cheap while you can. And then if they do well, you can sell them and get some better value, and boost your team up that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it.
Absolutely. I agree. My sell was Gabe Davis as well. I've already sold Gabe Davis to some guy.
Yeah.
Man, I got that guy. And then I'm going to continue to sell Gabe Davis. I'm going to continue to sell him because he's terrible. I fell into the trap that he was good. He is not good. Getting Gabe Davis off my team as fast as I can. The Dolphins. I'm going to start. Get any Dolphins tight end. Gesicki's gone. It doesn't even matter who you grab. Grab somebody cheap and just have them on your team because you just never know, especially in tight end premium. Those tight ends come in handy, whether it's Smite, whether it's Long. Grab one. They still might draft one. They still might bring one in, but it's good to just go ahead and grab one of those 2 guys because they might end up panning out for you. Tommy, who you got?
Waddle. If I'm buying, if I had to buy somebody, it's going to be Waddle in the offense. Selling, I'm selling everybody that's not Waddle and not not Hill. Everybody else I'm selling, including the quarterback. So,
all right,
yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Good deal, Sheriff. Appreciate you hopping on the stream.
Yeah, I'm a Dawson Knox fan. Big
Dawson
Knox fan. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, that was my dude.
I do like Dawson Knox. Oh man, I wish he could have had a better year.
Yeah.
No.
But,
you want?
Yeah, you good, Hutch.
All right. But yeah, Dolphins to me, are a really interesting team. Like, because I think Waddle, I think you could talk about him as a buy, but he's already so expensive that it's like, it's hard to buy him because I've seen him go in dynasty leagues where it's like 3 firsts worth, and it's like,
Wow.
it's just like it's so hard to buy at that price because he's already such an elite price tag. So if I were to buy anybody, I think the Dolphins tight ends are a great shout out. I think that's very, very interesting with Gesicki probably going to be leaving this offseason. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to specifically be selling somebody, I think this might be a good time to sell Tyreek Hill. When you look at wide receivers and obviously like how wide receivers age, usually when you see it's like speed is not a thing that lasts through your 30s. Speed is usually not a thing that lasts through your 30s, and Tyreek Hill is already getting up there towards 30. I think would be a great. I mean, he's finished as like a top 3 receiver for fantasy this year, and he had a big season. I mean, at one point he was on pace to beat Calvin Johnson's receiving yard record, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, like earlier in the season, he was on pace. Like he was dominating, and I think this would be a great opportunity to sell him for as much as you can get because if we start to see any signs of a fall off, it's done. It's over. That sell window is going to shut, and you're gonna be stuck with him. So I'd be looking to sell Tyreek Hill. I think that's a very interesting one. And then every running back. I know you're probably not going to get much, but every running back. I think the Miami team is going to make a complete transformation of their running backfield this year. This backfield is not working. They need somebody else in there. I don't know if they, draft somebody or if they trade up for somebody in the draft or if they look free agency. They're going to rebuild this backfield, and it's not going to be Raheem Mostert. It's not going to be Jeff Wilson. I would sell the heck out of those guys for whatever you can get.
Right. Those are my sells too, are the running backs. Because obviously Mostert's going to get hurt. That's a foregone conclusion. Jeff Wilson's probably going to get hurt too. That happens every year. So try to move off of them as soon as possible. When it comes to buys, I literally just wrote a line through the team because there's no really bargain buys on the team, to be honest. I would love to get Waddle, but I don't know, one, if I have the draft capital and the player to move up to get him because he's still young and productive. So I just keep that at that. I'm really not really buying anybody at the price that I'm willing to pay, to overpay. Only time I'm really overpaying is if I'm going for a chip right before the playoffs to do that. I don't want to overpay in the off season and then he tears his Achilles and then I'm screwed for the whole season. So in that case, I'm just gonna sell those backs and just sit and not buy anything from there.
Smart. Sheila?
Guys, y'all got it going on, but I'm telling y'all missing the biggest sell of all. My good friend Deontay Wilder, professional boxer, says it's not good for a man to be hit in the head. And Tua Tagovailoa had 3 concussions last week. And I'm sorry, y'all. If y'all buying in this offense, any of these receivers, what happened when Tua can't play? And here's the reality. I'm concerned for his health and his well-being long-term, right?
Okay.
The young man is phenomenal. I'm definitely a big fan of anybody that goes out and does all of the amazing things that he's done, both in college as well as in the pro game. But the reality is to act as if we don't recognize that he's one hit away from literally having his life at risk.
Yeah.
He's the biggest sell of all to me right now in Dynasty. If you got him, get rid of him. Because if he takes one more hit, Washington Commanders fans, we know Jordan Reed, phenomenal tight end, 3 concussions in one season. If you got 3 concussions in one season and you coming back out here again, I mean, the biggest thing of all, when they shut him down was literally they said they were doing film and he didn't remember what happened in the game. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm out on the entire Dolphins offense. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for them to actually bring in a good veteran quarterback or to actually draft someone. That will be the person that I'll be buying because I don't know that Tua is going to make it the 4th season.
Smart. So let's go ahead and get to the Jets. Jets, man. Lots of exciting players on the Jets. So I'm pretty sure nobody's buying the Garrett Wilsons of the world. Nobody's buying the Breece Halls of the world. Those guys are expensive, and I overpay every single time that I get one of those 2 guys. So who I would buy for the cheap is Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is terrible. Zach Wilson is cheap right now, but Zach Wilson is on a rookie contract. And you can throw Zach Wilson into your taxi, man. Maybe if he has a revival, maybe if God helps him to learn how to play football, he might end up being something. He might be a guy that you can plug into your lineup if the Jets starting quarterback gets hurt.
He is
Um,
he is worth a ham sandwich in dynasty leagues right now. Like you can get him for anything. Like
yeah.
no one wants
Hide
him.
your mom's friends.
No,
That's all I
no.
can say.
Manny's still selling them for a second. But, but
God.
listen, I would agree with you right up until this week when we started hearing all the rumors about the Jets looking for quarterback replacements. They're talking about trading for some. They've already interviewed Derek Carr. That leads me to believe that they are looking for a permanent replacement for their QB position. And we've already seen plenty of times when these quarterbacks go off to a different destination, to a different team that hasn't been that didn't draft them, they don't have that same leeway, or they don't have the same rope, and they get pulled very quickly. So if they don't show something early, they get pulled very, very quickly. You guys saw that guy Baker that you guys think is so great. You saw him in Carolina, and listen, and you saw that one game in LA, but you hadn't heard anything else about how great Baker was since then. So, and I know some of you still believe, but once again, he'll be a failure, and so was Zach Wilson at this point. I'm completely out on Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I'm kind of with that side.
You told me Zach Wilson was going to get a job.
Oh, he'll get a job. He's going to get a shot.
I think we're lagging a little bit.
Yeah.
He can get a job holding a clipboard on the bench.
Yep. Bro.
Wow. Oh, man.
Who you got, Hutch?
I'm actually a little bit insulted when you said no Breece Hall, no Garrett Wilson buying, because obviously Garrett Wilson, I think he is a bit expensive, but I actually think you could find value in him because when, the Jets obviously haven't brought in a quarterback yet, but if we see Aaron Rodgers go to the Jets, Garrett Wilson's value is going to significantly jump, and there is no way around that. His value is going to go through the moon. It will be all Garrett Wilson hype talk all season long. That's all it will be. And I think if you could buy him now, well, it's going to be expensive. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be very expensive. But if you buy it now, you actually might be able to obtain some value there. And I also want to talk about Breece Hall, too. I think Breece Hall is a fantastic buy. I mean, in his rookie year, he was on pace, 17-game pace for 194 attempts, 1,124 yards. That's a 5.7 yards per carry, by the way. 46 total catches and 12 total touchdowns in his season. And probably he's about to get a major quarterback upgrade, which is going to help this entire offense. And a lot of the quarterbacks they're looking at Aaron Rodgers, looking at Derek Carr. There have been slight rumors about Lamar Jackson. That would crush Breece Hall's fantasy value because we've seen Lamar Jackson, the way he plays. He runs the football, and that ruins pass catching upside for Breece Hall. That would absolutely crush that. And Lamar Jackson to the Jets would hurt Breece Hall. But the main rumors have been around Derek Carr. They've been around Aaron Rodgers. Those are two pocket passers that, look at Aaron Jones. Look at Josh Jacobs. These guys over these past couple of years, they've been fantastic. Over the past 2 years, those two players combined, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, have combined for over 200 receptions over the past 2 years together. They have been insane at catching the ball because Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr do not run the football. They pass to the running back when they're under pressure. And then adding on to that, people want to be concerned about the ACL tear and say, oh, it's concerning. It's not a concern to me at all. This was a very clean, very easy injury. It's not like Javonte Williams where there's another injury to this where it's very complicated. There's a clean ACL tear. And additionally, adding on to this is a rookie year. He's 21 years old. This is very comparable to Dalvin Cook. If you remember Dalvin Cook, very beginning of his rookie year, he tore his ACL and then came back in 2018 and looked better than he did in his rookie year. He looked fantastic. And a lot of people want to say Saquon Barkley, want to bring his name up because he was a shell of himself of his ACL. But he had more NFL mileage on his legs, more injury history than Breece Hall did. He was older. And there were so many shady reports in the offseason that there were clearly setbacks for Saquon Barkley's injury. As long as we don't see many major setbacks for Breece Hall, I expect him to be at 100% full health heading into this year with a better offensive front of him, Garrett Wilson stepping in year 2, and a new quarterback, I'm all in on Breece Hall, and I'm buying the heck out of him in Dynasty. He will be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
He will be. You're going to have to pay top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's worth it.
Yep, I'm buying, but I'm spending.
Yeah, you got to spend.
So
I think at some point, I think, honestly, I don't think there's a running back. I'd rather have the 101 than any other running back in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. But beside from that, Breece Hall is a Dynasty RB1.
Yep.
I don't think there's another running back I'd rather have than him in Dynasty. And I think after this year, he's going to be there.
Okay. Pork, what about you?
So my buy is Elijah Moore. He's so cheap right now.
Mm-hmm.
He was awful last year, but I don't know if he was awful due to him or the coaching staff. And I truly believe it was the coaching staff because there was something going on. He was arguing with the coach and he was asked to get traded and he wound up staying. If you saw what he did in his rookie year, he looked super decent. I'm trying to figure out what disconnect he had in between then and now. The talent doesn't go anywhere. So we're talking about obviously the MILF hunter, Zach Wilson. He's not going to be out there at all. So we're going to have either Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers, right? So I'm kind of comparing Elijah Moore to a Randall Cobb if Aaron Rodgers is there.
Ooh.
I want all parts of that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to overproduce anything that he's done, anything that he did last year. Mm-hmm. So you can get him super cheap. You can probably get him for a third now, or maybe even a late second.
I haven't seen him go for a third. That would be cheap.
I've seen him go for a third last year during the season because of the production that he was given because he wasn't doing anything. So you can get him for super cheap. Yep. I got him for the
what league do you play in?
I got him for the 212 last year and during the season because he wasn't doing anything. So you might as well get him for cheap and project for the next season. Mm-hmm. He's going to do a lot better this year.
I sold him.
I can guarantee that.
Yeah, I sold him during the season for a 206, and now I'm buying for a late second. Sheila, who you got?
Yeah.
So I'm driving that Elijah Moore train. I've been grabbing him in all our startups. Like he's phenomenal. Like he has all the talent, right? You look at it, it's all there. Obviously, there was an issue with coaching staff as well as the quarterback last year. But listen, guys, my sell is Breece Hall. And I'm going to tell y'all why my sell is Breece Hall. Because of the enormous amount that you can actually get for him right now. The most fluid position on your dynasty roster should always be your running back. A lot of times people are investing in running back and they're not ready to actually win. If you're not ready to win, then you need to go ahead on and kind of grab those additional pieces and kind of see exactly what you're working with to go ahead and build your team out. Breece Hall is a running back, and typically our running back shelf life, we see it. They got 4 years. If you're not ready to win right now and you can turn Breece Hall into 3 first-round picks, go get your 3 first-round picks. Like, use wisdom. Grab what you need to grab to go ahead and grab those additional assets. Running backs come and go. The injury piece, we haven't seen him back on the field since he had an injury. So we don't know that it's setbacks. We haven't even gotten to the off season yet. We're not going to hear about this stuff until the training camp piece. So right now, I mean, again, this guy is Dynasty RB1 or RB2. We got the Bijan train that's coming. Right after Bijan, there's nobody else that people would rather have than Breece Hall. Sell him right now. If you can get yourself 3 first-round picks for him, go get that value and see what you can put together. This is a phenomenal running back class coming in. This literally has the potential to have 9 new starting running backs coming out of this class. Get you some picks, turn Breece Hall into what builds your foundation for your fantasy future. That's all I got on it.
I mean, I get you. Just, I just hope that those picks don't turn into Trey Sermon.
It is interesting because
Trey Sermon, Sean Vaughn, and something else.
Yeah, man. I do love what you said about running back being a very fluid position because it is. Like, running back should always be moving around your dynasty roster. I just think when you look at Hall, we haven't seen, because running backs, when Jonathan Taylor had his rookie year, we didn't really get to see, like, his first year was fine, but then his second year, after his second year is where his value was really the best, and that's where he was easy RB1, no doubt about it. That's where you should have sold him. But I think Breece Hall is going to have that type of season this year, and I think if you sell him now, you might miss out on that. But I do get the concerns with the ACL, because there is a setback that is definitely a problem. But I believe in the ACL because of what I was talking about with Dalvin Cook and how comparable that is. So I think he's going to be good, and I think he's going to be great, and I think he's going to have that second year Jonathan Taylor type season where he is catapulted right there into that, like, higher than he is now. And I think that's going to be the time to sell rather than this year. But I do see what you're saying. The right back is a very fluid position that you should always be moving around.
And
if
it's
you can
always
get
about
three first, if you can get 3 first, then I agree.
Three first would definitely have me looking, because that is a lot. I mean, obviously depends on where those firsts are in the draft and if it's a super flex or not. But yeah, 3 first is a lot. I've never seen him sold for 3 first in Dynasty, not yet at least.
Yeah. Also the system, right? That's the big thing as well. We didn't see him just get full reign of that offense. And I think that's the biggest thing that's also a concern, because what we're seeing now is even him being used as a timeshare piece last year. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, you're not going to get a Jonathan Taylor productivity season if you're still splitting. Exactly what you gave us, that 17-game projection. 1,000 yards, 194 carries. To me, that's not enough to carry your RB1 season.
I think he was more efficient than anything, because I know Michael Carter started the season off, and then once they integrated him in the offense more, he became more efficient. So he really didn't really have to have all those touches, because fantasy football, it's not the workhorse back. That list is starting to get smaller and smaller every year.
Yeah, the workhorse back doesn't exist anymore. Like, that
it
does not
doesn't exist. You have Jonathan Taylor,
receptions.
Yeah,
and Derrick Henry. That's about it.
That's it. I do want to go back to Breece Hall for a second. You said, like, wasn't the workhorse back, and obviously that is true. He wasn't like the workhorse guy, but you got to cut him some slack a little bit, though. In the first 3 weeks, he saw 6, 7, and 8 rush attempts. Like, he wasn't like fully involved in the offense yet. But when you look after that, the snaps significantly increased. He saw 45, 27, 51% of snaps in the first 3 weeks. And then the next 3, he was just barely under 70% in all 3. And he saw 17, 18, 20 rush attempts. He saw 10 total targets in those 3 weeks as well. Like, he was taking over this backfield. And there wasn't, like, when you look at the other Jets backs and their touches, like, it wasn't significant at all. Like, he was the clear lead. So I think that putting those first few weeks against him is a little bit unfair, but I get what you're saying. But also you got to think about, like, as Phil was just mentioning, like, there's not many workhorse backs anymore. Like, you can't expect that out of anybody. I think Bijan might change that. Bijan might be a workhorse back, and JT might be a workhorse back. Derrick Henry, workhorse back. But there's just not that many those guys anymore. Like, those guys aren't there. You got to take what you get.
I think the guys that we're seeing
Jalen Warren looked scary last year. Jalen Warren started to look scary. I'm a little scared of him next year.
That's fair.
But there just aren't many anymore, and you got to take what you can get at the running back position. And Breece Hall is going to be as close to the best as you can get.
I think that elite productivity in college, we're not seeing that translate to the pros as much. Breece Hall was an elite college back. When we see it now, you can see the talents there, similar to what you see with J.K. Dobbins, an Ohio State guy, with the Ravens. Elite productivity. But when he gets to the NFL, now you see injuries and everything else kind of come into play. I think this is a pattern that we're seeing. When you see those backs that kind of have those amazing stat lines, Breece Hall, productivity out of this world. When he gets to the NFL, now you're kind of seeing them. That makes a big difference. The guys that actually have longevity typically are those that actually have those hands, and then you see a smaller usage in college. Think of like your Alvin Kamara. He's actually been one of the most consistent profiles of a running back coming out. Consistently top 10, top 12 running backs, with the exception of this past year. Him and Ezekiel Elliott were the only ones that actually had that long shelf life. So that's the big piece that I'm kind of looking at as far as the consistency with the pieces.
Hey, good deal. So we got one more topic. We couldn't get to the NFC West on this episode because it's just great topics, great, talks and everything. So the Pats. I'm gonna go first. The guy that I'm buying is, excuse me, Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong, if, we know that the Patriots use multiple backs and we don't know what the coach is doing sometimes, but Pierre Strong is a guy that I loved last year. Coming into these rookie drafts, I was getting this guy in the third, fourth round, stashing him in my taxi. In the one game that he did play, when I believe Ramondre Stevenson did not play, he had 20 points in fantasy that week. So he's a guy that could be something. I know that Harris is there. I know they have other pieces there as well. But Pierre Strong is my buy low candidate. You can get this guy cheap, third round, maybe a couple third round picks. I'm gonna go to Tommy on this one. Who is your buy for the Patriots or sell?
Listen, I hate to keep repeating you guys, but yeah, Pierre Strong is my buy for the Patriots. Um, I like Ramondre Stevens. The thing about the Patriots is they have always used multiple backs the whole time I've been watching them, and I'm pretty sure they're going to move on from Harris. So I believe that Pierre Strong, in the limited action that he had last year, showed that not only could he carry the load, but he could also catch out the backfield. I thought it was a pretty strong showing, so I'm rolling with Pierre Strong.
All right, Hutch.
Yeah, it's tough not to talk about Pierre Strong because he is super cheap. He showed a lot of flashes last season. I also do like Ramondre Stevenson generally. I feel like even after this year, the hype around him is not it's not what it should be because he finishes a top 12 running back in fantasy football this past season, and I feel like the hype is just not there. And also, when we're looking at it, Damian Harris is a free agent. He's not re-signing. Like, there's no way he's gone. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna cause a lot more excitement for Ramondre Stevenson. So if you can get him before that time, I think that's great. And Ramondre Stevenson, he wasn't just like a grinder, ground and pound running back. He proved that he can catch passes out of the backfield. And when you look at the quarterback position for the Patriots right now, Mac Jones, he is as mobile as a tree. This dude cannot move. If he sees pressure, he's throwing to the running back, and that's going to be Ramondre Stevenson or some Pierre Strong as well. But I think mostly Ramondre Stevenson is going to get in there. So I do like Pierre Strong, but I also think Ramondre Stevenson would be a solid buy. I feel like the hype isn't as good as it should be around him right now.
All right, Port.
Yep, Ramondre is a really solid buy. I love him a lot. And I'm glad that he showed the fact that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. That propelled his ranking super high for me. I think my dynasty buy this year is Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver. Ooh. Wide receiver, number 11 on the outside, runs like a 4.3 40. I think my biggest thing for me is that Matt Patricia's not there anymore as the OC because he's a defensive coach. I don't know why they decided to do that. But they brought back Bill O'Brien. Yeah, we might say, he kind of messed up the Texans. But Bill O'Brien is actually a really good offensive-minded coach. And with him coming in there and kind of bringing back Mac Jones to where he kind of needs to be, like I think it kind of messed up his head last year. I think Tyquan Thornton can be the wide receiver one on that team and be a solid wide receiver two in fantasy when it comes down to it, because there's no really body else they gotta throw the ball to. It seems like usually when they draft a wide receiver, they usually are trash. But this guy actually out of Baylor, he shows that he got a lot of speed. He has really good body control downfield. And I think this guy can be somebody that can produce for your team, and you get him for cheap.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's my guy.
I also like the Jacoby Myers as a free agent this offseason. He's
for sure,
and he's been a solid piece for this team, but I don't know if it's enough to be able to be re-signed by the Patriots. So definitely have to keep an eye out for that. But I am also a little scared the Patriots might add some competition if they do get rid of Jacoby Myers, because you can't
Myers is a sell.
That receiving core is that receiving core would be so crap. Like if you just left it that way. Not saying Tyquan Thornton is a bad player, but it'd be very risky to go into your season with that as your receiving core with no Jacoby Myers. Sure. Like it'd be very risky. So the Patriots would probably be looking to add somebody. And free agency would suck though, because have you guys seen the free agency class for wide receivers this year? Have you guys looked at it? Because it's trash. Like it's Jacoby Myers, Alan Lazard, Paris Campbell are like the top guys. Like there's nobody.
It's the Patriots receivers: Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, those guys. Yeah.
The Patriots are drafting JSN this year. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. Sheila, who you got, man?
Big Mac Daddy Jones. Mac Daddy Jones is your buy. Literally. Bill O'Brien in there. Thank you, Pork Man. You set me up perfectly. Bill O'Brien, I'm here in Houston. I got to see it up close and personal. Awful personnel dude, but he had the offense humming. Situation. He's going to do clock management wrong, right?
Yep.
But he's going to produce a top 10 passing offense. And hopefully he can get in Bill's ear and say, look, Bill, you can't draft wide receivers. Let me go ahead and let you know what kind of receiver you need to grab. And he does exactly what Manny says and goes and gets JSN. If that happens, if we can get Mac Jones with an elite receiver, because we saw him put together one of the best college seasons ever when he had all the talent around him, when he had a Devontae Smith, when he had Henry Ruggs, and he also had Jerry Jeudy. When we saw that trio together, you put talent around him, he can actually make it happen. He can throw strikes. He can do all of the different things that elite quarterbacks can do. Hopefully he gets the supporting cast to make that happen. Go get you some Big Mac Daddy Jones.
I love it, man. This has been a great show, man. Thank you to our guests, Porkman and Hutch. So, Porkman, where can the people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at FFPorkman. You can follow me on YouTube at Dynasty Rewind. We also have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. You can go on there, talk to us anytime, send us a DM. Kind of think of it as like more of a family-friendly type thing. So you can hit me up whenever. I don't really care. It'll be a middle of the night. I've talked to Manny at 2 o'clock in the morning. He asked me for trades, asked about trades and certain stuff like that. So hey, like if you ever, even if you need to talk about fantasy, real life stuff, about depression or anything like real life stuff, just hit me up. I'm always open to talk about whatever you need to talk about.
And Hutch, man, such a big fan of you, man. Where can the people find you?
Oh, I appreciate it. You guys can follow me on Twitter. I'm at HutchinsonB_FF. My handle's right down there. And you can check out and pretty much all my content from there. I mean, Hutchinson Brown Fantasy Football Perspective. It's a podcast I host. I work with DLF, otherwise known as Dynasty League Football. I write articles, and I'm working on a new YouTube show with them that might be coming out in the next few weeks. I also make YouTube videos for the football guys and their YouTube channel. And I'm also working on a Patreon for myself as well. So keep an eye out for that within the next couple months.
Good deal, good deal. The Resonator, where can the people find you, brother?
Find me on Twitter, @4MovementT, and right here on Dynasty Overload.
Good deal. What about you, Sheila?
At 3D Sheeler on Twitter. Holla at your boy.
Good deal, good deal. You guys can find me at Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel or Talking Sports with Manny on Twitter. You guys can also find me Talking Commanders with Manny. Just anything with Manny, you can find me just talking anything. Fantasy, NBA, NFL. It's like a buffet table, man. Grab what you want. So, man, this has been an awesome episode. This is Dynasty Overload, a fantasy podcast, episode 6 in the books. I want to thank everybody who came on the show. We had great discussions, great topics, a lot of hot takes, but great takes. Looking forward to grabbing this group and doing this once again. Thank you, everybody, and we will catch you guys on that next episode. We are out.